Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king. The whole world knows this phrase. In 1923, when archaeologists opened the tomb of Tutankhamun, people began to die. First the sponsor of the expedition, then his secretary, then the radiologist. Death took them one by one, as if following a list. Newspapers screamed, "It is an ancient curse, the mummy's revenge." But today we will conduct our own investigation. We will pull up the archives, check the medical records, and prove the killer really was inside the tomb. He waited in the dark for 3,000 years. But it wasn't a ghost, and it wasn't magic. It was the perfect biological weapon, which science discovered too late. Let's go back to November 1922. The desert, the heat, the nervous tension. Howard Carter finds the steps leading down. He makes a small hole in the ancient door and inserts a candle. "Can you see anything?" he's asked. "Yes, wonderful things," he replies. But the strangeness began even before the official opening. On the day the tomb was discovered, Carter's favorite canary was eaten by a cobra. And the cobra is the symbol of the pharaohs, the guardian that spits poison at enemies. The local workers began to whisper, "The tomb is angry." A few months later, the main event occurs, shocking the world. Lord Carnarvon, the English aristocrat who paid for all these excavations, suddenly falls ill in Cairo. Fever, delirium, severe pneumonia. At the moment of his death, the lights go out all over Cairo for no explainable reason. And in faraway London, at his ancestral castle, the Lord's favorite dog begins to howl and drops dead. It sounds like a horror movie script, doesn't it? That is exactly how the newspapers of the time presented it. But here is a fact that mystics really hate to talk about. Where did the story about the cursed inscription over the entrance even come from? The fact is, it was a real media war. Lord Carnarvon sold the exclusive rights to cover the excavation to the Times newspaper. Only one journalist had access to the pharaoh's body. The rest of the world's reporters, from the Daily Mail, the New York Times, sat in the heat behind a fence. And then Arthur Weigel, a rival journalist, steps onto the stage. It was he who, seeing a cheerful Carnarvon at the tomb's entrance, made a dark joke. If he goes down there in that mood, he won't live 6 weeks. When Carnarvon actually died, by a tragic coincidence, Weigel remembered his words. He embellished them, added mysticism about a clay tablet with threats that he allegedly saw, but which later vanished, and sold this story to the world. The curse of the pharaohs was not born in the tomb. It was born in a newspaper editorial office that urgently needed to boost circulation. Now let's turn on cold logic and look at the statistics. If the curse exists, its goal is to kill the defilers, right? The main defiler was Howard Carter. He was the first to enter. He breathed the dust of the tomb for years. He personally dismantled the mummy to remove its jewelry. Yes, it's a barbaric fact, but it happened. So what happened to him? Was he struck by lightning? Did he catch the plague? No. Howard Carter died 17 years after opening the tomb, at the age of 64, from lymphoma. It was the natural death of an elderly man. Let's look at the dry numbers. At the moment the sarcophagus was opened, 26 people were present. In the following 10 years, only 6 died. The remaining 20 lived quietly to a ripe old age. Lord Carnarvon's daughter, who also went down into the tomb, died in 1980. She was 79 years old. A very slow, lazy, and selective curse, don't you think? But wait, Lord Carnarvon did die, and he died strangely. If it wasn't magic, then what was it? Science gives the answer, and frankly, it is scarier than any ghost. The tomb was hermetically sealed. Inside were food for the pharaoh, flowers, wooden furniture, fabrics. For 3,000 years in the dark without fresh air, a unique ecosystem grew there. The tomb became an incubator. Meet the real killer, Aspergillus flavus. This is a fungus that lives on ancient grain and organic matter. In closed spaces, it releases powerful toxins. When inhaled, its spores enter the lungs and can cause aspergillosis, a disease that is very easily confused with pneumonia. For a healthy person, like Carter, a tough archaeologist used to dust, this just causes a cough. The immune system handles it. But Lord Carnarvon was sick. Even before the trip to Egypt, he had been in a car accident. His lungs were very weak, and his immunity was compromised. And there was a second suspect: bat droppings. Colonies of bats had lived in the long passages to the tomb for centuries. Over time, their droppings turned into a toxic dust containing the fungus histoplasma. It causes a disease with symptoms exactly like the fever that killed the Lord. When the archaeologists broke the seal and burst inside, they released an invisible cloud of spores that had been accumulating there for 30 centuries. Lord Carnarvon simply inhaled death, but not from a priest's spell, but from simple, ruthless biology. So what is the result? Is there any magic in this story? You know, the ancient Egyptians believed in one simple truth: a man lives as long as his name is spoken. The most terrible punishment for them was oblivion. Tutankhamun was, in essence, an insignificant ruler. He died very young, accomplished nothing, and his name was later erased from the chronicles. He should have disappeared forever, dissolved in the sands of history. But thanks to this curse, thanks to this newspaper hype, fear, and an invisible fungus, he became the most famous person of the ancient world. Every child on the planet knows his golden mask. His name has been spoken millions of times a day for 100 years straight. Ironically, the curse invented by journalists gave him exactly what every pharaoh dreamed of: true eternal life.